What should you do to find a good, beneficial, mutually beneficial partnership?
You should find somebody who has a skill
Mhm,
that you don't have that makes sense for the project you're trying to get into.
mhm.
Who maybe has a track record, or who has the money, or who has the time.
You're checking out the Investor Shed podcast with Nick Beveridge and Jeremy Kitchen. They're on the path to financial freedom and they're taking their community with them. Stay tuned for the best free real estate investing advice on the internet. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Investor Shed Podcast Season 3, Episode 1. Today we got Nick Beveridge and I shooting the crap on the business. Nick, we're going to get right into this thing. I love you, buddy. I'm not going to cut you off here, but what kind of food should people be looking for in this episode?
Bananas, bananas,
Bananas,
bananas,
bananas,
bananas,
bananas,
bananas,
bananas,
bananas.
bananas,
This episode
bananas.
is bananas.
Not sponsored by them, but it's crazy bananas. Nick's story is cool. We talk about business, and let's just get into it, man.
Get ready for the rise and fall of Nick Beveridge. See ya. Good morning, Jeremy Kitchen.
Good morning, Nicholas Beveridge. How we doing today, bud?
Dude, I'm feeling fantastic.
Good.
We haven't recorded in 3 months.
It feels like an eternity. Like, I turned on our podcasting recording studio, and I was like, how do I work any of this stuff?
Dude, and I've just been listening to our podcast like a proper audience. And holy crap, I almost forgot about like 90% of the people that we interviewed, and we had some good episodes last season, didn't we?
We did. And speaking of last season, I just want to say welcome, everyone, to Season 3 of the Investor Shed podcast. So good to be back. We got a really cool season lined up for you all. But right now, we're just going to be kind of shooting with the wind and having a really good conversation about real estate.
Heck yeah, we are. But first, if you're watching on YouTube or listening with a pristine ear, you might notice my audio is much better these days. And that is thanks to Ryan Jones. Bought me this microphone. I sold him a house a few months ago, and the guy got me a closing gift. So nice of you. Ryan Jones, big shout out. Appreciate it. This microphone is awesome. And he got me the amp to go with it. I had to get this cloud lifter and figure it out, but it was easy. Plug and play. And this is like the same microphone Joe Rogan uses, I think, right? It's the same one Jeremy uses.
It's the same one I use. I'm like, I've been using it since the beginning. I don't know what you're looking at, but yeah, the Shure SM7B is the way to go if you're a podcaster. Big shout out to Ryan Jones. He got a hold of me and he was like, Nick's audio sucks on the podcast, so I'm gonna try to get him a better mic, and I gave him my blessing. So it all worked out really well.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan Jones. All right. So, Jeremy, it's been a while. What have you been up to this summer?
Well, I'm not exactly sure where we left off after season 2 of the Investor Shed podcast, but you and I made a deal, and I actually acquired Gingersnap Media. So I've been doing a lot of that again.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I bought myself a job.
But it's a nice, high-paying job, and you set your own hours?
Exactly. Yep. It's pretty cool. And with that, so like we just had a crazy summer with real estate photography, man. June, I did almost $11,000 in revenue myself, which is pretty insane just holding a camera and making photos for people. I used a lot of that. I started up a self-directed IRA. So thanks to Matt Sorensen on one of our last seasons, who really pushed me over the edge and wanted me to get into a retirement account. So did that.
Yeah, that episode just came out. I mean, if you're listening to this, I guess a month or two ago now, but Matt Sorensen, that was an amazing episode. It's not every day you get to talk to somebody who like wrote the book on a particular industry, and that's the self-directed Roth IRA. And dude, the guy manages over like $1.5 billion in assets. So they're a pretty large firm, and it was just great to be able to just pick his brain and tell him about my situation and what he recommends for me. It's nice when you have a podcast, you can just you can get the most fancy people on and then just totally take advantage of the situation.
It's not like we want to take advantage of the situation, but I think you're right there, Nick. Like, honestly, we get these experts in our field, and we get to have a one-to-one or two-on-one conversation with these people doing a lot of high-level things. And it's not every day you get to be in a room with those people. So hopefully everybody listening gets value out of it as well. But definitely we're soaking it all up like a sponge. So
Yeah. One of my favorites, too, was the very last episode we recorded of season 2 with Courtney Jones. And this gal bought over 700 houses in her portfolio that she owns. 700, some of them are apartments, of course. But man, she's just got wisdom, and I was able to really relate with her because she was also a broker doing a lot of what I was doing. And I just got to ask her, hey, if you could do it all over again, would you have grown it to what it was? And she said no. And that was really self-reflective because I tried scaling huge and it didn't really work out well and I wasn't happy, which is not what I thought it would be. I thought scaling is the way to go. It will make me happy. But she really enlightened me with just, hey, if I could do it all over again, just stay small, buy multifamily. So, dude, I don't even care about single family homes anymore unless it's a fix and flip. So I'm just going to take the advice of the wisdom out there. Otherwise, what's the point of all this?
Right. We're taking the advice of the people who are doing it at a high level and are doing it above our level, and that's how we learn and grow. Just take what works and make sure we omit what doesn't from their systems.
Jeremy, what was the funniest thing that happened this summer,
Oh, funniest thing that happened this summer.
or
That's
most
putting
ironic?
or most ironic. Well, those are two
I'm just
different fields, but let's see what we got here.
Jeremy has ADHD, and I'm just screwing with his mind right now.
Yeah, you made a division already, and I'm like, okay. First of all, I have to find something that's ironic. I haven't thought anything this summer has been like, you know what? That was really ironic that happened.
Uh,
Funny thing, man, I don't know. Like we've had a lot of fun this summer, like we always do. Um, Nothing's really coming to mind right at the moment, though. What about you? Any stories in particular that you're quite fond of?
you know what? I gotta throw a huge shout out to my wife. She's been amazing this year. She's we have two young kids, and when young mothers have kids, they go through this ultimate sacrifice, and they're just like, I probably sound like Oprah here, but it really is a tough job. And she barely had any time for herself over the last few years. And as the kids are they're getting a little bit more self-sufficient now. We have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. And we're at the point now where the 7-year-old can watch the 4-year-old just fine while we go out for like walks in the evening. But dude, this year my wife has been all about like personal development. She's lost 30 pounds so far. We're both doing 75 hard. We're about halfway through that. And she's just crushing it in life, and she's got more time for herself. And she's just really embracing like the, no alcohol. She knows that was a really just not a great thing in her life, but didn't know it until she gave it up for a little while. So just a shout out to my wife. That was the coolest thing that's probably happened this year. My wife has just completely done a 180 and is so much of a pleasure to be around now these days.
I love it, and obviously, congrats to your wife as well. I think she's doing really well. Both of you guys for doing 75 hard. That is a tremendous challenge, and you are almost or a little bit more than halfway through it right now, right?
Yeah, we're on day 41 as of this recording. It is early August.
And yeah, definitely shout out to Hillary, man. She's killing it. Like we even went to a real estate conference back in June, the Creative Real Estate Circle. That was a great conference, by the way. Your wife wanted to come with us, and she wanted to learn and grow. And I thought that was really cool to see her there and soaking it all up with us.
And she built the town of Boise. I don't know if you guys know that, but she was very much involved with all the infrastructure of building everything and all the businesses around the downtown city of Boise, Idaho.
She did everything absolutely, and don't Google it because Google's wrong. But
She worked there. She did that.
and he'll tell you everything.
She even put in the sewer lines.
She didn't. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, well that's been great, Nick. But real estate investing, like what have you been up to? I know I've had a pretty busy summer doing a couple things, even with hard money, brokering that. I got set up on one of Pace's programs. I'm helping do I partner with him on a couple things, and yeah, what have you been up to?
I have been selling a lot of my rental properties that have good equity in order to pay for all the debt I accumulated over the last couple of years, getting into a lot of risky flips and new construction builds. So that's I'm just going through one of those cycles in business where going down a road where it's like, okay, got to deal with the consequences of just not getting all these projects done quick enough. The market turned. There was a lot of mismanagement. Tried to scale too quickly. But thankfully, I'm in real estate and I'm going to have a pretty quick recovery. I still get to keep my house and my cars and maybe a rental or two. But unfortunately, I'm losing way north of $1 million. And the damage is still not totally assessed yet. But so it's been rough. And I've been going through this. Obviously, I talk about it all the time. Maybe not in depth. I kind of skim over it, but the truth is, I just bit off way more than I can chew. Got into way too many partnerships. Um, tried to tried to take on more than I can handle, and read the one thing again recently, and I'm just like, dude, I've read this book before. Why don't I just do what it says? Just focus on one business. You'll be
Isn't
fine.
it weird how you just apply what you've learned and it can actually change your life? Like, just, you can read all the books you want. If you don't take action on them, you're just it's the equivalent of not reading at that point. If you're not reading and applying, that's where you actually make the difference. With that, Nick, do you mind if we kind of do a deep dive into your situation? I think it's really cool to hear about the pitfalls of real estate investing, right? And how you're able to bounce back because you have a lot of stories in that, and I think there's a lot of value with that as well.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah. I'll start from the beginning. When I came out of my mother's womb, I saw nothing but light. It was too bright. I put on some sunglasses quickly. But let's speed ahead 18 years. um, I got my real estate license when I was 22, 23. And I got it because I wanted to invest in real estate. I really wanted to buy rental properties. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Didn't read the book. I did audio. I couldn't really read back then. I can read better now.
Nice.
Um,
Congratulations on your
oh,
reading.
thank you. Yeah, I'm a complete weirdo. And used to be completely illiterate. I still struggle. See, case in point. So anyway, I got into real estate to buy rentals. And I thought if I can be a realtor, then that will help me because the very first house I bought, it was kind of a disaster. I bought this property in a rural area that I moved into, and it was just before the crash of 2008. I bought this house for 86,000. I moved into it. I was very young, and I was working at a car dealership, and all the money I made, I put into this house over about a year and a half or so of making improvements into this house that I bought for 86,000. And I moved out of it with the intentions to get it rented. I hired a property manager. When I say hired, I mean I signed a contract with a property manager to find tenants. And it took 1 year for 11 months. Took 11 months, call it a year, to get our first tenant. My mortgage on that house was just shy of $800. And I received my first rental check about a year later for like $450. At the same time, I was having seizures in Florida, and I couldn't pay any bills because I couldn't work. I was having seizures. I was not getting taken care of by anybody or the government. So very quickly, I've went into this. I couldn't pay for anything. Kind of, I don't know what you call it. It's my first big failure in life, I guess, financial disaster. A year later, I got my real estate license in Florida, and I still wanted to invest in real estate. I got to fortunately work with a lot of investors that were buying rental properties, and I got to see what they were doing. And a couple years later, I moved to Idaho, and I got my license again. Knew I wanted to invest in real estate. I took a fortune builders seminar with my brother Sean, and this was back in 2013. We both got super excited. We formed a partnership together. Neither of us had any contracting experience, or I had a little bit of investing experience. Obviously, it didn't go well, just that one house. And my brother, he had just blown out his ankle at his job. So he was fortunate enough to he was getting like subsidies every month. So he had a little bit of time on his hands and was getting some sort of monthly income just to pay his bills. I was an agent again, And my first 6 months back in the business, I didn't make any money. I was kind of living off this savings that I was able to accumulate the year before. And when that ran out, that was when we bought our first two flips. So my brother and I fixed and flipped a house, and we made 44 grand on one house. And I was able to roll our profits, half of our profits we rolled into this other house that we were sitting on that we got on seller financing. It cost only like a couple $100 to hold on to. So we held it for like 6 months, and then we went to work on that place. Like I said, Sean and I, we didn't know how to do construction, but we just kind of figured it out with YouTube and hiring some help, and just kind of, hired a good contractor and was like his assistant basically, and just learned the ropes. Did a full, yeah. So we did two full remodels. The second house I actually moved into for a few months, and then we moved out of it because I thought, hey, if we could just hold it for another 5 months, we won't have to pay the full capital gains. It'll be like long-term capital gains. I was so focused and worried about saving money that it really stopped me from making money. And looking back at it, I was always trying to like do everything I can to save the most amount of money as possible, instead of just turning my focus into, hey, how can I just make the most money? Because they both require energy.
Right, they do.
Yeah. Anyway, fast forward a few years, I was able to, we did a couple of fix and flips, and for every, I would say 2 fix and flips, I would take the profits that I had and I would buy a rental property. And the rental properties that I would buy would be very similar to a fix and flip. We would fix it up. We did the burst. I was doing the burst strategy before it was really coined the burst strategy. So that's how I was able to buy like my first 3 rentals. And that was back in 2015-ish, 15, 16. And then that's when I met Joe Turner. And I was selling real estate at the time. And Joe helped me with my real estate sales business, take it from a small little realtor business to something larger. And I partnered with her. I sacrificed half of my income and gave her half of commissions, but in return, I got half of her commissions. And together we were able to do like 4 times the amount of transactions than if it was just one or 2 people working separately. So that was a huge life lesson. Was like, man, if you could just partner up with the right person, sometimes if you get the right partner, you can go really far. Because she wasn't going to sell that kind of real estate without me, and I wasn't going to sell that kind of real estate without her. And we were able to, over time, get an assistant and then get buyer's agents on our team to help with the excess amount of buyers that we had. We were able to mentor and coach them. We decided early on that we wanted to be a real estate investor focused team. We started actually before I met her, about a year before I met her, I started an investor meetup. And that actually really helped explode my business. It took a little bit of time, but I started doing this meetup in Coeur d'Alene because there was nobody doing real estate meetups in Idaho at the time. There was only one guy doing real estate meetups in the Northwest, and that was in Spokane, Washington. And really nice guy, but his meetings were just, it was mostly sales pitches. So always selling something, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just wanted to do something different. So anyway, this is a long story. I'm getting there. Trust me. We're going to get to the downfall. I've got these 2 things going side by side. I've got a fix and flip business with my brother, and I've got this real estate sales business with Joe Turner. And both of them are going pretty well. And the reason for it was because the amount of attention each one required, I was given an adequate amount of focus and attention to. The real estate sales business, once I brought on that partner and had an assistant, I didn't need to give it 40 hours a week. But when I was there, 3-4 hours a day, I gave it that 3 or 4 hours a day of complete focus. I knew what I had to do. If I wasn't doing sales activities, then it would all crumble. The fact that I was doing meetups consistently every month, never missed one, that was a highly leveraged way of generating leads. And as long as I was directing those to the right people, The real estate business started feeding itself. I just had to start showing up to it. And then the fix and flip business with my brother, we agreed pretty early on after like the second or third flip. Hey, it wasn't that fair that I was always working on the property and so was he. And then I was also the realtor that found the property and kind of figured out the money and sold the property. I was doing quite a bit more. But we thought it would be fair if Sean, my brother, was on site working on the flip, managing, subs or other laborers. And I was the guy that found the deal, got it financed, so he wouldn't have to really bring any money. Sean could just show up and work, get the house done. And so I would utilize my rental properties as cross collateral because at this point I did the BRRRR strategy, and these rental properties that I had equity because I bought cheap, put just enough repairs into them to get nice tenants, refinanced, and when you refi, you can only do like a 70% or so of the value. So if you have, just an example, a house that's worth $100,000 and you have a loan for 70, you have 30 grand of equity. Obviously these houses were a little bit more than that, but let's say like I had a rental that I had a loan for 300,000 and it was worth 450. A hard money lender can see that there's 150 grand of equity there. So I can go buy a discounted fix and flip and say, hey, could you just put a lien on my rental that has 150 grand of equity instead of me bringing cash to the table or money for the renovation? I'll just figure out how to make payments. So that's what I was able to do. And I was only able to do 1 or 2 flips at a time because I was making payments on these. And I knew my limits. I didn't want to get way over leveraged at that time. I can only do 1 or 2 flips at a time because, again, I was making $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 payments, whatever the loan amount was. It was coming out of my account, and I was making sure things were getting done efficiently and on time. And that only required maybe 3 to 4 hours of my time a day to be able to look over the renovation project, make sure that it was being done kind of to my satisfaction. And the reason why I was so careful about it, because Sean he doesn't see what buyers see. Like I had all this experience as a real estate agent, knowing what even the entry level buyer would expect for quality and what kind of materials to use. So he was fine letting me kind of run that show of like, these are the materials we're going to use, and this is the budget I think we're going to need. Because I knew what buyers would accept and what they wouldn't accept in a particular price range of a house.
And with you being, I'm going to cut you off real quick. And with you being a realtor, obviously, you have your pulse on the market like nobody else. You're looking at properties all day. You know your comparable market analysis, your CMAs, right? You know what things are happening in the area, so you can see what's happening in the area, and you can renovate to that or a little bit more. Because, like you've always told me, you want to be the best price house in the best neighborhood at the with the best price, right?
Yeah, it's a beauty pageant and a price war. That will sum it up best. And it's almost always been a beauty pageant and a price war in real estate. And if with the exception of like 2020 to 2022 ish, where it was just if the property was available, people wanted to buy it. And in a normal market, people don't just want to buy houses because there's inventory to choose from. You usually have 5 to 7 months of inventory there, and the only houses that typically sell are the ones that are priced the best and look the best. And that's just the way it's always been. And so anytime we're fixing and flipping houses, I have to keep that in mind. And I always have a pulse on what's our competition going to be? Is our competition going to change over the next couple of months? I got to keep an eye on it, make sure that we're going to be priced correctly, and then we're going to be priced the best, and we're going to look the best. Because if you're not, you're going to struggle, and it could take you, 3 to 4 more months to sell a house until you're eventually dropping it to the right price. We all got drunk in 2020, 2021, forgetting that price does matter.
We really did.
Because everything changed. But everything's going back. Everything has gone back to the way it was, just with higher interest rates. So anyway, so I got off track. But
That was my bad. I derailed the train. But you were talking about how you and Sean partnered up, and then you had him do the work while you were the one kind of telling him how to renovate the property. So
yep. So that went on for at least another 4 or 5 years, and did pretty well. I was able to accumulate one at a time a rental here and there, maybe every 6 months or so. And in just a few short years, I mean, I had like 14 rentals. And all these rentals had equity because the market was appreciating over time. And I had force equity because I bought at a discount, fixed it up, and refied it. And when you refi, there's still a good 30% meat on the bone. When you added up all that meat, I realized in 2020, I think, I realized that we had become net worth millionaires. And it was shocking. And my wife didn't even believe me. But I'm like, no, if you take the rentals we have, and if we just sold them all, we'd have like $1.8 million. Isn't that crazy? And she's like, that's crazy. But I don't care, because the money's on the account. Um, anyway, so in 2021, I want to say, or late 2020, early 2021. At this point, I had hired Jeremy. I think that was back in 2019. I wanted to start a media company.
yep, that was 2019.
Yeah. Okay. So 2019 is when I started to. I don't want to say struggle, but I started to stretch myself thin. And the days started to get a little bit more stressful because not only was I running a fix and flip business, and a real estate sales business, which now included at that point, I think 7 people. We had brought on some buyer's agents, had an assistant, and listing agent. And I decided I got a hair up my ass one day because I was upset with our photographers' photos, the quality of their photos. And I was upset because they were kind of the only people in town, and they moved out of town, and they hired a couple of dipshits that didn't know how to take photos. They do now. They're fine. But I can have high standards sometimes. Anyway, so I knew, my best friend Jeremy Kitchen that works at the car rental place. He's good with a camera. He used to be a photographer, and I just thought to myself, man, I have a business idea. The photographers that I know that are making 30 grand a month in gross revenues, that were they just moved out of town, and it was becoming more and more common in the real estate industry for your average run-of-the-mill listings to have professional photography taken, and there's only a couple people in town. So I thought, hey, I think there's a huge market for this. And I thought, why don't we just copy everything that they do? Because I've been using them long enough. I kind of know 80% of their systems. And I was able to interview with one of their ex-employees to kind of figure out the back end of what's involved. And I approached Jeremy Kitchen. It took some convincing, but I'm like, hey, because you're all about security.
It was, yes, it was.
Tell me your opinion. Tell me how that went down. Do you mind telling the story of like me selling Ginger Snap Media on you?
Yeah, I mean, we can kind of start at the beginning of Ginger Snap real quick. So obviously, we met for lunch, and you came to me with this wild idea, and you've always had really crazy, like innovative ideas. You've always been an entrepreneur, and that's always just been something I've just respected about you. Up until like 2019, I just worked jobs, like just jobs that I didn't care about, or like there was not a lot of room for advancement. So in reality, I was putting myself in a stuck position where like this is my cap, this is my ceiling, my glass ceiling is here. I've hit it, right. You came to me with an opportunity saying like, hey man, let's I want to start a real estate photography company, and I honestly didn't know what to think at that point, right? Because I'm like, okay, I
You
don't I
seem
don't
very suspicious.
I did. The reason was is like I knew how to take photos, but I didn't know the business aspect of this because everything we do and everything I've learned, like 90% of what I do is a business. The other 10% is just taking the photos. Like that's it. Everything else is businesses and systems and just automation for that part really. But it's all stuff we learned. There was a lot of trial and error in that. Like that first couple of years, we had some slow start, but we figured it out. So
And you were gracious enough, like when we didn't have photo shoots, you were able to go work on properties with me, and it didn't bother you,
right,
which was nice.
yeah.
I think the very first month of Ginger Snap Media, I think you spent more time at my cabin painting than anything.
More than likely, and that's
But
all
we
like
had a good time.
skills we did. We had a good time, and like we look back at it obviously, and like we can say that Ginger Snap wasn't profitable, but there was that things that like I wasn't profitable, but I did provide value to you, right? And I did provide value to the North Idaho REI team. Not only was I doing your guys' shoots at cost, so you know when things are at cost, I wasn't exactly making money, and you weren't exactly making money. And when you're not making money, you're losing money in business. If you're stagnant, you're losing, and that's just how it goes. But monetary gain aside, like there was value to be had, and I became ingrained in your systems and in your team, and all these people on your team just turned into family to me, literally.
Literally. You want to tell people about that?
I married his assistant.
And then she quit.
Awkward. No, I'm just kidding.
It took her 5 years to quit though.
Yeah,
She hung in there.
she did. She's a trooper, and obviously she's still there for you guys whenever you guys need. So, but yeah, doing that. So, I mean, a couple of first years at Ginger Snap, I was helping record your season one of Investor Shed podcast. We didn't do a lot of editing, honestly. I didn't have time. We put like a cell phone in a room with you guys and recorded it, and then I just matched up the audio and put it out. That was it. There was nothing crazy about it. So if anyone's wanting to start a podcast, you can do it with very, very little materials.
Yeah. I heard a stat and now I forgot what the percentage is, but that the amount of people that start a podcast, most people stop recording after 3 shows.
I thought it was 3 or 5, yeah, something like that.
And the amount of people that stop before they get to 20, I believe,
Hmm.
is like 99%.
Nick, we did it. We're part of the 1%.
We're in the 1% of podcasts out there that just keep going, keep chugging along. So you're welcome, everyone.
Not even America. Everybody.
America too.
America as well, though. But yeah, so then, fast forward a little bit. Ginger Snap's going okay. Here and there, you got another wild hair up your ass to do hard money lending and started doing that as well. So it broker hard money funds. It was at that point where I was overwhelmed with work, and I'm like, neither of these can live at the same time. Like I have to either like go hard into one, or I can't do both. It was just too taxing. But then after realizing that I can do both and I should do both, like hard money lending is a tough business. I will tell you. Like brokering funds isn't as easy as people think. It's a lot more babysitting than one would imagine going into a job.
A lot of educating.
A lot of educating, right? And that's okay. Like I'm happy to talk to people and I'm happy to provide the education you need. But my job basically is underwriting for the underwriter. So I'm bringing them deals that actually make sense. And what does that mean? Is that means sifting through a lot of bullcrap, to be honest with you, and that's okay. But yeah, I figured out I can do both at the same time, and we came to a very, I thought it was mutually beneficial agreement for me to acquire Ginger Snap from you.
Yes. Yes, you did. And for those out there that, just a little bonus, because I always try to get creative, like when I'm buying deals with little to no money. Um, do you remember I was able to start Ginger Snap creatively by offering my partner Joe Turner a deal. Hey, I need about 20 grand worth of equipment here and a little bit of payroll. What if I made you a 10% owner, and I'll still pay you back, but give me a year. And so for those of you out there that, if money's always getting in the way, you can be creative, because I was able to start that business with bringing in a partner, 10% equity. And, over time, it didn't really work out, but she got all her money back. And she did get some profit checks a couple of times. But she knew it was a risk. And sometimes those are the best people to partner with, the people that understand the risk in business. You don't have to really sell them on it. You just show them what you're trying to do. Are you willing to do this? Say yes or no.
Just get crystal clear on your criteria whenever you're making partnerships or making agreements. Obviously, just and that's just general guidelines for everybody. Make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's whenever you're doing this stuff. But yeah, on the other side, like if you're like somebody who has money, like you can invest in businesses. Like you don't have to just buy real estate. You can buy businesses and you can get equity in businesses. But just don't do it in ginger snap bite and other things.
Yeah. And do you mind if we share how we are transferring this business to you?
Sure, go ahead.
For those out there, again, that always think money is a challenge, sometimes just like helping somebody with their needs is more than enough, and can more than compensate than actual dollars. So we had all this equipment for Ginger Snap Media, a fully functional media business with drones, computers, proper cameras, lenses, the works. And what was more valuable to me than money at the time, maybe still now, is, hey, what I would really love instead of some money, can we make a deal where over the next year, every month, you produce a high quality, 3 to 5 minute video that we can put on our website that's kind of timeless. If our website for our real estate business, this is how you buy a house. This is how you sell a house. This is this neighborhood. These are our REI events. The list goes on. We get 12 high produced, nice, crisp, clear videos, professionally done. And in exchange, you get the business. And we had ChatGPT write up that contract.
We did. I love that.
And I gave you the keys to the kingdom, and it's kind of like on a land contract. So you can get creative out there. This business was formed creatively, and it's being sold creatively. And this isn't unique out there. It's not just us doing this.
Right. And obviously, like you and I, we have a lot of history together, Nick. I mean, we've known each other since we were like what, 7 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty crazy, right? So I mean, like every partnership, like I've done a few partnership deals with you, and I know you're on the same page as me with this stuff. But like we want to see each other win so bad.
We do.
Like literally, like a lot of my time is like, okay, how can I be of value to you? Because you've been such a value to me. Like you've brought me into this industry. You like I would know nothing about investing if you didn't like push my hand into Ginger Snap Media. And that's just something like I always want to be conscious of that. Like, how can I pay it forward to you? Like, what can I do for you that would benefit you, as a thank you? Because I'm eternally grateful for everything you've thrown at me. Like, I have a wife, a beautiful wife, and I'm expecting a child now.
Congratulations, everybody out there who doesn't know.
Yeah, yeah.
You're having a son.
It's a potential son. It could be a potential daughter too. We don't know yet.
I'm calling it. It's going to be a son.
Interesting enough, we've had people call it a boy and call it a girl. Saying they've never been wrong on these things, and I'm like, ooh, somebody's gonna be wrong.
Oh, I'm always wrong, so it's going to be a girl.
There it is. First take, everybody. But no, so like my entire life has changed just because of the opportunity you've presented me. And I know, like with our partnerships, like hopefully you see the same as I do, but like I try to do more than what I say and what is in our paperwork, right?
Yeah, you do. You go above and beyond.
I try to, right? Because I think we both have that mindset, like we can grow better together, right? I'm not in the interest of screwing you over. I'm not in the interest of you screwing me over. Um, we just try to be there for each other, and I think it's great.
You're going to make me cry.
Aw.
You queer. Just kidding. Anyway, so yeah, huge thing I've learned being in real estate last few years is like you can actually have work friends if you want to. And it's totally up to you if you're an entrepreneur. You can select who you work with. And I have, I've just been so fortunate to have Jeremy in my life, Joe Turner, everybody else on my team, like they're my actual friends. And if at any time they're not really much of a friend, we can show them the door. And it's no hard feelings. They're probably itching to get to that door anyway. So that's it. It's pretty amazing. That's one of the biggest things I've learned over the last decade is that you can choose who you do business with, who your friends are. You always get a choice. Not making a choice is making a choice. If you stumble upon whatever comes at you in life and just accept it, that's your choice. So anyway, I'm going to continue with this story if you guys remember.
Yeah. Let's roll with your story again. So we got sidetracked a bit.
Yeah. So I start my third third base business, basically, Ginger Snap Media. Starting to stretch myself a little bit thinner. Now, at this time, this was 2019, 20, I was making more in real estate commissions than I ever had. And it's funny, a lot of people, they tend to spend what they have. And I'm honestly, I'm not above anybody. I'm no different. I fell into the trap of spending pretty much everything I made. The difference is, though, I kind of follow Robert Kiyosaki's plan of like investing, savings, donate. I, do, I donate not a tenth of my income, but I donate a certain percentage. I invest heavy, so almost all the money I get, I'd say 80% goes right back into the business in some fashion, or buying houses or improving properties. But that's a choice that I made. I wanted to constantly compound this growth. And I, is it stressful at times? Yeah, because I paid very little attention to savings. It wasn't a factor to me because I knew I can just go make more money if I need more money, or I can borrow, or I've got these credit cards I can use if I ever really needed the money. That's my security blanket. I've got 100 grand in credit cards that I can use, which will come later in the story.
Can't wait.
So anyway, starting to stretch myself a little bit thin, and because Ginger Stamp Media wasn't making any money, it was sometimes breaking even. But here's what it did for our business, though. It was able to help promote the real estate sales business, which did bring in more money. So it's hard to calculate how much money this business actually make me overall, because it helps so much with the marketing and pushing our names out there, because you were able to do the podcast for us and film our events, and there was so much that you were able to help out with to get our North Idaho REI team brand out there for real estate investor agents. And so no regrets doing it, but it was still a monthly expense. And I started, just the anxiety level just started to keep inch up, little bit. But I kept pushing forward because I knew in my head, or I convinced myself that it was the right move, because I'm reinvesting, I'm building. Why not? Like, what else am I going to do with this money? Sit on it, save it? Like, money's not good for anything unless you spend it, right? That was my thinking. Still is.
Also, side note on that, like obviously you had a lot of different properties and projects going on at this point. Like Ginger Snap was not the only like thing that was taking money away from your pocket.
Oh, exactly.
Okay, I'm not like that bad guy who just
No, I still had the fix and flip business going on, and the fix and flips were always over budget. That money had to come from somewhere, and it always came from my pocket, because I already made a deal with my brother that he wouldn't have to put money in. That was a deal that I made with him a long time ago, and maybe we can revisit it. But I like to just honor my word, and sometimes that's to a fault. But I was always the one bringing in the extra money needed whenever we were over budget, which was always with everything. We're always over budget on every business, every house flip, every burr project. It's just the way it was. Sometimes it was voluntarily over budget. Sometimes it was just, sewer line broke, something like that. Money has to come from somewhere. But anyway, still making good money at this time, though. And I'm also accumulating burr projects and all that. In 2020, I got into a partnership and this is why. In 2020, I decided to get into new construction because I saw that in my real estate sales business, it became tougher and tougher and tougher to find houses for people that wanted to buy them. We had a lot of buyers, lots of buyers that wanted property, very little inventory to choose from. And so I thought, if I can just create the inventory, what a leg up. If I can build houses and be the listing agent, get a portion of the profits and get the commissions, I only need to build maybe 10 houses a year, and then I don't even need to worry about clients. Um, and so I started looking for builder partners. We found some up north that we worked with very well for the first year. I got into a partnership with a guy on my team and this builder couple. And for the first year, we built 3 houses, and my job was to raise the money, kind of help find the deals, kind of help a little bit in the design and the sales process. I kind of stayed a little bit away from the design for most part because that was what the builder was doing. And my other partner, he was dealing with a lot of the pre-construction and the on-site stuff. He wasn't part of the construction, but he was part of the pre-construction. So like permitting and dealing with the HOAs and like trying to get these houses approved, and also trying to find us deals and find us land to build on. And then he would be the listing agent. So would I, but he would be the primary contact and help out with a lot of the fine tuning touch up stuff. It was a really good partnership, was, and the first 3 properties we sold, we made $400,000, and the market was just exploding, and there was less inventory every month, just less inventory. And it felt like this is just such a product that we just need it. Also that year, this was 2021, I started accumulating projects like fix and flips, burrs. I took on an RV park, and I was going crazy because the 3 hours a day or so I was able to put into 1 or 2 fix and flips started to need more attention, a lot more, because all of a sudden I went from 1 or 2 to like 9, 8 or 9, and I decided I needed to hire somebody to help me, like hire an employee, not just a 1099 this time, random contract, but I need like an experienced project manager, somebody that can be by my side and I can teach them what I do, and they can just go do all the daily thing, go pick up materials, manage the books, drop off materials, and coordinate getting permits and anything project related. I need a project manager. And I was willing to pay a good salary. I decided on $70,000 plus bonuses. And the reason I determined that was because I was able to look on my spreadsheet and look at all the projects that I had, and looked at kind of like a more conservative scenario based on the projects that I had at that time in 2021. I was going to net $600,000 plus all my cash back on a lot of these projects that I had. So this was just on projects. So I knew I can sacrifice 100 grand of that if I were able to offload like 80% of the work onto somebody else that I had to do. It just made sense to me. So I found somebody. He was willing to quit his job. He had a great job. He quit his job to come work with me. And I took on more projects at the same time. And then I immediately started needing admin help, because lo and behold, when you have, all of a sudden I went from like 9 to 26 different projects. That was at my peak, 26 different projects with different partners, and they were all like builds, flips, burrs. They all needed renovation work. They all needed improvements. None of these projects that I got into were just, it wasn't just paperwork. It all needed labor. And I started getting all this mail, utility bills, pay like insurance stuff. And the mail was fat, like every day. It would take like a couple hours almost every day just to go through all the mail I was getting from all these houses and projects. And I decided, man, I need an assistant. And I was getting behind on the books because the guy I hired, the project manager, holy crap, was he overwhelmed with work. And because I was used to doing 1 or 2 projects at a time, and I just, for half the day. And I thought, hey, if one guy had just one thing to work on and didn't have to focus on real estate or anything else, and could just focus on these projects, I think it's manageable. Um, and by the way, I didn't intentionally take on 26 projects. Something happened, and it added up to 26. And I can get into that another time. But I was responsible for 26 different renovation projects, and I had one project manager that was overwhelmed. The books were getting behind, and I decided if I hired an assistant to help me keep track of the books, the money, and all the mail, and maybe get my coffee ready in the morning, that kind of stuff, I can sacrifice another 30 grand a year for that, buy some time, because that was taking half my day too. For half my day back for 30 grand for a year, worth it to me, especially when I knew I was going to make north of 500 grand in just projects. It made sense. It was busy. And we had a lot of problems, that every problem you can imagine. We had permitting problems. Permits weren't going quick enough. Subs weren't showing up to job sites. We had this thing called COVID, and it had this backlash of supplies not coming the next year for really anything. So we had issues getting truss plates. We had issues getting windows. We had all these issues getting proper materials that we needed to build these houses or do these renovation projects. So, and also there was a huge shortage all of a sudden of labor, because we had so many people move here, and all this massive requests for work everywhere in the Northwest. So it was just hard. So then after I hired the assistant, and I had the project manager, and I had Sean helping, I had all these projects that just weren't getting done because we couldn't get anybody to come work on them. So I had all this management, but no labor. So I decided maybe if I hired another person that's just a full-time contractor in-house, and I made my first hire, with benefits, health insurance, that kind of stuff. I knew the workers' comp would be expensive, but I had no clue that it was going to be as expensive as it ended up being. I hired the one contractor, and it wasn't enough. Could barely get enough done. And then over the course of a few months, all of a sudden I had an assistant, a project manager, a second project manager, and all he was doing was just running materials everywhere. And 6 laborers, all on payroll. And we got a lot of work done, but it wasn't fast enough. And I had 26 properties under, that I was working on. The interest payments on those that I wasn't, because I got a lot of these interest payments baked into the loans. And what that means is I wasn't physically making the payments every month. They were just coming out of this loan that was made for the payments at the escrow company. So every month, yep. And that money, I wasn't seeing it come out of my bank account, and it was hard to wrap my head around how much it actually was. And it was north of 50 grand a month. And the payroll was around 30, 35 grand every other week. And I had no income because all these projects, had to be built and sold, and it just spiraled into I gotta grow because I can't get anything done. I gotta hire this. I gotta get it, and I just trying to do as much as I could to just get these houses done. And it was really tough. I don't know how I got through 2022, but after I think I had 8 months of this going on where I had that much in labor going through, but we still had all these issues. Sorry, I know I'm bouncing around a lot, but I'm trying to rack my memory. We were always having issues, and I could not get any work done that I needed to do with my real estate sales job because it was just one fire after the next, after the next, after the next. And it was very stressful, and it was just not what I thought scaling would be. I thought my job would be easier by hiring people, and it was not. And then we started having HR issues with employees fighting with each other regularly. Regularly, you'd have contractors fighting with each other, or the assistant and the project manager fighting with each other. And that was not something I expected either. HR issues. And then I started getting this bill in the mail called workers' comp, and it was significant. I mean, we're talking like, this quarter we owe 40 grand. I'm like, wait, for what?
For what? Yeah.
Workers' comp insurance, because you have contractors. I'm like, oh my God, I did not budget for all this stuff. I couldn't, because I don't have the experience, and I didn't hire people with this kind of experience either, that I had to do. So I didn't know what to anticipate. So I ended up having to make cutbacks. And I thought to get some of these projects done, I got to cut the payroll somewhere. And I let my lead project manager go because he was costing the most, and I had to take over just because I couldn't. It was either that or his payroll was going to bounce. So I had to let him go. I think he even stayed for another. I let him stay for another couple of weeks too while he found a job. So it wasn't like I wanted to get rid of him. I just knew I couldn't afford that. A week or two after that, I let my assistant go. She didn't. I expected her to keep track of the books. She knew nothing about accounting, so that was a big mistake too. I hired a bookkeeper to go back over months and months and months of bad records. So I had sloppy books too, but I had to hire. I think I spent in 2020, I don't know, 15 grand in bookkeeping fees just to get some sort of order back. And then something started happening where interest rates started going up and the market started slowing down. And I didn't even mention too, material costs have started skyrocketing. And just to give you an example, there's 26 projects I have. Just one project, building a couple of duplexes. When we already locked in our budgets for the construction, and after we got the concrete poured, like 3 weeks into the job, we got our lumber rebid because prices were going up. And all of a sudden it was $38,000 more just for the lumber on these duplexes than what was budgeted. And what was budgeted was fluffed. What we had was what we thought was more than enough because we had it quoted before. And we even added like another few $1,000s just in case. And lumber shot up that much, whereas just on one project, just one piece of the pie, 38 grand. And my partners on those projects wouldn't help me. They wouldn't help financially. They didn't have the ability, and they really couldn't help with anything else. So it was my responsibility to do that and a couple of the other jobs because I couldn't just let it go. I signed personal guarantees and I had all these people working for me. I had to get the jobs done. So this is just lumber I'm talking about, but almost every project I had was close around 50 grand over budget or more in materials. And it took so long to get them done, probably spent another 50 grand per project in hard money fees over time. And the market started going down too. So what I thought I'd sell these homes for, a lot of the home values went down in the price ranges, just average 150 grand. So we're talking, there's about 9 projects that have lost close to 200 grand. So we're getting closer to the $2 million mark now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, even just off the lumber on 26 houses, I just ran the quick numbers, 1.3 million. If that was, 38,000 or whatever per house, and that's nuts, man.
So here's what happened. I let a lot of people go because I wasn't going to be able to make payroll. I remember the week after I let my main project manager go and my assistant go, I needed at the time, I really needed that other project manager to help me because he was willing to try to get really good deals, work with subs. I didn't have the money to pay him, but I had silver in my garage in my safe, and I rushed to go grab $6,000 worth of silver, and I cashed it in, and I was able to pay him in cash from some silver savings that I had. Just because I was going to be late. He was supposed to get paid that day, and so that day I had to go cash in silver. Yeah, and so it's been a struggle ever since. And that was over a year ago, and more things have happened since then. Haven't had a lot of great news, but here and there, some of the fix and flips, not all of them lost money. Some of them made okay money, but the majority of these projects are losing a lot. Even the RV park was a disaster. Not one tenant. We built that whole park brand new, and for some reason just can't get a tenant. So that's going on the market. So what happened was I sat down with one of my hard money lenders, and I just told him what was going on. And I said, I want to make this right. I don't know how, but I need to let you know in advance all these payments that are coming due, because all these interest reserves were also drying up, because all these properties, I wasn't really making payments on most of them, but they started coming. And it was close to, I think, $48,000 a month or something like that. The first kind of round when they started coming due, that I had to come up with, and nobody was helping me, except for my hard money lenders. They put a new loan together that just those guys themselves funded to make the interest payments. But it was hard to get the rest of the work done on these homes because we had exhausted all of the draw funds, because we were over budget on all the materials and labor, because prices shot up and yada, yada, yada. We didn't have the money to finish these homes. So used all my credit cards, that comfort blanket of over $100,000 in credit card debt, like that, pretty quickly. So that helped me get some stuff done one by one. But over the last year, I've had to sell almost all my, I'm selling almost all my rental properties. And every time a rental property sells, it pretty much pays for finishing the projects that I have and kind of making interest payments for that month. And I went from 14 rentals, and I'm down to, I think I'm down to like 5 or so. So my numbers might not be 100% accurate, but they'll give you the ballpark. And I've got a few more left to go. My interest payments are now down, as of August 2023, now down closer to $29,000 a month. That's money that I'm losing month, $1,000 a day. So I'm getting close. I have a lot of stuff a lot of these projects are now done. That's the good news. They're on the market. I think we're getting our last big project on the market. We got it on the market yesterday, Pump House. And so almost out of the woods. We see light. And I had to sell all the rentals that I'm going to have to sell all the rentals to make due on all these debts. Pretty much. I got to keep my personal house, my cars. But that was what I went through, and I'm still going through.
Sure. Wild story, man, for sure. Just a couple questions on that. Obviously, like, you've went through so much just trial and error and adversity the last 24 months. Um, what's your plan going forward? Like, are you gonna dive back into investing once you stabilize? What, like, are you gonna just do multifamily like Courtney Jones was saying, or?
Um, so I've been doing a lot of soul searching, trying to figure out what do I really want. And I was really happy and very content in my life when I was just doing one or two flips here and there, and working as a real estate agent. So I'm going back to that for now. Um, it may not be what I do forever. I still don't know what my purpose is in life.
That's okay. Like you're doing what feeds you. It doesn't have to be your purpose or like your main goal. I think we can have a lot of different purposes.
What makes me happy it is, I had a really good time in 20, let's call it 2017 to 2020 ish. I had like 3 really good golden years, where I wasn't really biting off way more than I can chew. I was still taking on a lot, but I had a nice small group of work friends, and not an overbearing amount of projects. I mean, I'm sure at the time they seemed overbearing, but now through what I've gone through, doing a couple of flips, no big deal. I've learned so much. I can handle it, and I'm really actually excited to grow this real estate sales business because we've Joe and I have done, patted myself on the back here and her, but um, over the last couple of years, we've been one of the top producing teams in the region, and we barely pay attention in our real estate sales business. We're both distracted with our own projects and stuff. But can you imagine how much we might dominate if we actually both put some effort into this business?
Oh, I 100% agree with that. Like, absolutely.
So that's exciting to me to actually take the bull by the horns and focus on one thing, and that's my real estate sales business. I might do a flip here and there if it makes sense. I'm not doing gut jobs for a long time. I got into too many of those. They're fun, like they're kind of like I don't know how to say this. They're not always the most profitable things, but it's just fun. It's fun to take a house that has 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, and making it into this, that's a piece of shit, and turn it into this awesome, totally functional 3 bedroom, 2 bath. And it's just fun. I like it. But what was fun and tried to make it into a systemized business, and stepped way into the back, and it just got stressful because I needed to do it to make money.
Makes sense. Um, I know we're over an hour mark here, but I have a couple just more questions for you, Nick. Um,
We can do whatever we want.
yeah, we can do whatever we want. This is our podcast. You can stop listening right now if you want to,
Stop listening right now.
yeah, turn it off. There's no more info. We're not telling you anything else. We're gonna tell them a lot of things. When you-
I don't care.
no, yeah. So like with those last couple of years, obviously you've gone through a lot. What's your piece of advice, or what is your big takeaway? Like obviously you were talking about doing just the one thing that you're focusing on, but like what was your biggest life lesson?
The biggest life lesson was to go with my gut. Um, back when I started taking on all these projects, my gut told me this is a bad idea. The computer told me that this is a fabulous idea. The spreadsheet said, "Wow, take advantage." The market said, "Dude, we need housing so bad." My partners were very convincing how much they were going to work with me. Everything else, everything except for my gut said green light. But my gut said this doesn't feel right. So my biggest life lesson was to go with my gut, because in the end, spreadsheets don't mean shit. Um, Anything can happen in this world, and nobody could have predicted COVID wasn't in my spreadsheets, and the after effects of COVID, and yada yada yada. So that's the biggest takeaway I think I can give. Uh, and that gut feeling. Gut is also like another word for God, I believe. And that's where people get that term, your gut feeling. You feel it in your gut.
There's science behind it. I can't tell you anything because I'm not a doctor, but I've read reports. Like there's scientific study that says like the feeling in your gut is heavily tied to like your sense of right and wrong, and it's weird, but fascinating studies for sure. I do want to talk about partnerships just a little bit, Nick. I know you've been in a ton of partnerships, and I know like some of them have been okay, and some of them have been not okay from based off what you've said. Um, h- in your opinion, how should people be finding partnerships? Like what should you do to find a good, beneficial, mutually beneficial partnership?
You should find somebody who has a skill
Hmm.
that you don't have that makes sense for the project you're trying to get into,
Hmm.
who maybe has a track record, or who has the money, or who has the time. So it's like one of those three things. Like somebody who's got the skills, they've done it before, they've got the experience, and they've got the integrity, or someone who's just got the money, who's going to help you out there, or someone who's got the time and energy, and devotion. It's and then there's this problem of like holding the other two, like the time and money. Sorry, not the money. The money is pretty black and white, but the experience portion and the people with the time, setting realistic expectations is something I completely failed at. And I should have been a lot more clear about what I expected from partners and what maybe they should expect from me. And we have amazing tools out there, and the most amazing one that I've found is called ChatGPT, and it is incredible at helping you on a daily basis. Instead of asking Google for anything, I always ask it ChatGPT now for everything because it uses such deep. Um, as long as you're asking good questions or trying to get like a joint venture agreement written up with, and just trying to relay something like, I want a joint venture with my friend. He's going to work. He says he'll work 3 days a week. Please make this contract, and if he doesn't, then maybe he's going to be giving up his portion of the equity, blah, blah, blah. Just try to type in as much as you can, and it will just spit something out, and you can refine it, and then go over that in person with your potential partner and say, does this make sense? Are you good with this? Can you read it for me? Like, it's worth it, because what happens is these projects take time, and over time people have memory issues, and I'm saying legitly, like, people forget what their responsibilities are. I forget a lot. It's very common, but if you set expectations up front in writing and go over it with somebody, and then everybody has a copy and a shared Google Drive, um, you'll really taper the amount of problems over time.
The only thing with that, I would say, obviously, like a copy in a shared Google Drive, make sure it's a non-editable copy.
Oh yeah. Well, no, like you got to sign it.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So like a DocuSign or something like that.
I mean, initially it's a document that you guys are editing maybe together, and then once you agree on it and you go over it in person, you're signing it in person, and then you take it, you scan it in, or you take a photo with your phone, and then you guys share that document, and that's your handshake. For the people that say I just do handshake deals, you're fucking lazy. Like, no, that's the truth, because a contract is a handshake. It's just what you don't realize is that people forget what they agreed to. They legitimately just forget. So it's good to have the handshake in writing that you can both go back to, because in a 12 months, people remember things differently.
Absolutely. And I think that's the best piece of advice you can take away from this, right? Just make sure you have everything in writing, regardless of how good your friendship or your bond is. Put it in writing, man, because like you said, people forget. I'm guilty of it too. You're guilty of it. And the way we remember is we go back to what we agreed upon.
Go back to what we agreed on. Keep it simple.
Per our agreement, which is literally right here, and we both have a copy of. This is what we talked about. Um,
And you can always amend it. If you guys feel like things aren't working out, and that's a great way. I mean, you should have meetings like weekly or monthly with your partners on projects, and maybe pull out that document, see if you want to make any changes. Hey, this is how it's going. You need less or more responsibilities?
sure. I mean, even you and I, we do our Denny's meetup every other Wednesday. And we kind of briefly go over like what's going on in our worlds and how we can help each other, and just make sure our ships are running at tip top shape, basically, right? Because the better partner I could be for you, like the better you're gonna end up being, and it just we're winning together that way. So I think it's great. Just one more thing on partnerships. I know like you have other partnerships where you don't have exactly crystal clear contracts going right now. What and I'm speaking on one deal in particular. I don't want to call anybody out or anything. Spear Lake. Like your job was to bring money,
Yes.
right? And like how do you hold your partners accountable in this sense where, you have kind of a nonchalant contract, and people aren't holding up to their end of the value or what they said.
Um, so yeah, it's always a choice if you want to pull out that document. It's complicated because the particular example you're giving, I feel like there's more pressing matters that like my partner is helping me on other things that cost me more money than that property. That property costs $800 a month to sit on. There's other properties that I have that the property's working on right now cost me $7,200 a month. So it just makes more sense for him to focus his time and effort on that. Try to sub out what he can on the other, or go there when that other one's done. So it gets complicated.
Well, you've got two other partners on that deal, correct?
Yeah, the other partner moved away, but his agreement on that particular deal. Now we're not talking about. Sorry, people are going to get lost here, but there's two Spirit Lake deals. One partnership is going to be tough if he's not here. The other one that we have currently, he's done his job. His job was to acquire that property, so he's all good. He's earned his money there.
I love it. That's good. And then, I mean, obviously, like you said, where your money's going different places, but for somebody who has just like one partnership, right? So, say, like, I mean, you could be partners with your partner and he has five partnerships with you, but then you could be partners with another guy who you just have one partnership with. And how do you determine just because a monetary value is more on one partnership, do you let the other partnership kind of go, or how do you manage that?
Give me an example.
All right, give you an example. So your other or your other partner on your Spirit Lake deal, who not exactly doing the work or what you agreed upon, right? He's got $7,300, or you've guys, whatever projects are $7,300. But say you have a partnership with another person that only costs you that $800 a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
How, like, that person obviously wants their job done just as much as the guy who's partnering with you on the $7,300 deals. Just how do you manage that?
Um, well, you do what you can. So like maybe I step in and try to help out. So there's only so much that could be done on like that particular property. Um, when we're still waiting on, like, we were waiting on drywall to get done for a while, and there's huge delays with that, and then we were waiting on materials to be installed. So we only have, like, on that particular one, a week delay. But the best way to solve that is just communication, and just call that other partner and let him know what's going on, make sure he's comfortable with it, and if he's not, just say, hey, we can spend a little bit more and get us a different contractor out there, if we want it done quicker. But hopefully you understand it's gonna be another week, because flooring, on that particular one, the flooring never showed up.
And sometimes these things, they literally just take time. So
Yeah, so good communication solves a lot of issues.
I agree. Anything else you think you want to cover in this episode, Nick?
Man, we talked a lot. Hey, thanks for listening to my long, boring story of the rise and fall of. But it's just a cycle. I'm confident that I've been able to learn so much. That the thing that really bugged me most was that I had so many partners that helped lend me money on the side to get these houses done. So what's caused me the most stress is actually not losing my personal money, but like potentially losing other people's money. And I know I'm going to be able to make do and get everybody paid back, and that's the most important thing. And that's it. And I know I can build it all back again. It's going to be tougher. I know that, because it's 2023 and prices are still high, and interest rates are double what they were a couple of years ago. And it's tougher, but it's not impossible.
Right. And you mentioned, like, you've got the rise and fall of Nick Beveridge, right? But what I'd like to think, like you're not going to stay in this position. Like, I don't think I would ever imagine you in a scenario where you're like, oh, that really hurt. I'm gonna stop doing everything. I'm gonna live down here now. Like, I don't think you're gonna do that. I think you're gonna, like you said, you're gonna continue doing flips and you're gonna build back up your net worth. And it's just part of the gambit, man. Like, you're figuring it out, and you've learned more this last year, and that's more than any monetary value, honestly. Like,
That's true.
yeah. Like your life lessons are worth the millions that you potentially lost, and it's going to make you an A better investor and B better person and C more patient person going in the future. So
That's true. My patience is definitely better. I've learned patience, but it's also not always a virtue. I mean, it's good to be in this business. It's good to be a little relentless and persistent, but sometimes you have to have relentless patience.
right. Combine that with simplicity too. I think you can live a simple, happy life, and it doesn't have to be so strung out of control like you're with your 26 projects.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. All right. Well, thank you, Jeremy. Um, thanks everybody out there paying attention. Hey, if you like us, maybe help us out and use our services here and there. If you need a hard money loan, get in touch with Jeremy, or if you need media work, to get in touch with Jeremy. If you want to buy or sell a property anywhere in the U.S., obviously we focus here on North Idaho, but we have a network of we can find the best agents out there in the country. So if you live in Kentucky and you need an investor focused agent out there, I can find them really fast with my so just let me do it, please. It doesn't cost you anything. And we get a little chunk of their commission, and they love it.
The shave a little bit of icing off the top.
All the realtors out there love referrals, and they love getting them and receiving them.
And this business is all about know, like, and trust, right? So, like, if you like Nick and you like what he's providing, just talk to him about real estate. Another thing I'd suggest people do is like we do put a lot of work into this podcast, believe it or not. Like even with the promos and just the stupid crap that we do, but we try to be really informative and we try to bring a lot of value. It would really mean a lot to us actually if you went on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, found the Investor Shed podcast, and leave us anything. Leave us a 5-star review. Don't leave don't leave us a 1-star review. If you're gonna go that, talk to me in person. We'll talk it out man to man or man to woman, whatever you are. But leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you like about the show. And yeah, we look forward to growing this with you. And yeah, appreciate everyone for listening.
Yeah, if you give us a 1-star, Jeremy's going to find you. He's going to find out where you live, and he's going to bite your spouse.
I will. You can put that on record. I'm a spouse biting weirdo.
He is. Don't do the 1-star.
Don't do the 1-star, 2 stars. It's a little less of a nibble, but 1-stars reviews are pretty harsh bites.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you so much for checking out the Investor Shed podcast. If you enjoyed your time, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow along on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at The Investor Shed for shorts and promos about each episode. Do you want to be a guest or know someone who has great real estate investing advice and stories? Reach out to us at theinvestorshed@gmail.com.